What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I am sitting here filming this video because my massive hour-long deep dive into Twister is currently in copyright and processing hell. Despite the fact that the video, and trust me, I have studied YouTube's terms and rules and regulations for fair use for years, as I've had this channel for just about 5 years now. It's gonna be 5 years this month. Warner Brothers still had to be fucking assholes and slap a copyright claim on that video both times that I tried to upload it. They slapped a copyright claim on it the first time I tried to upload it, so I went back and I re-edited the video, even though even the original version of it did not violate any rules or regulations. I went back and I was even more generous with it. And like, if the original video was even teetering on the edge of violating regulations, it wasn't. But even if it was, the second version of the video that I tried to upload definitely wasn't. Like, objectively, nobody in their right mind who has actually read those rules and regulations would say that it violated them. Except for Warner Brothers, because, you know, what influence do I have? And then look at all the influence that they have. So, I know you guys have been looking forward to that video. I've been working on that video for months, and so it was, I kind of had a rage quit on YouTube for a little bit there, because I was just so pissed off. This is not the point of the video, but I just wanted to make that very clear. That video is coming. As of right now, it just looks like I'm gonna have to cut out a whole portion of the video and just go back and do a voiceover explaining what the point I was making was. But that's not what you guys are here to hear my thoughts on. You guys are here to hear my thoughts on the film Civil War, which I am reviewing today, and it was written and directed by Alex Garland. Alex Garland is one of my favorite filmmakers working today. I adore Ex Machina, I adore Annihilation. Men, I see what he was going for, but nah. He kind of fumbled it. But if nothing else, Men was still an excellent display of Alex Garland's talent when it comes to framing scenes and the whole mise-en-scene of the whole thing. Yeah, can you tell I just did like a whole year and a half of film school? I'm using terms like mise-en-scene. Point is, Alex Garland is a very talented writer and director, and because of that, I was very much looking forward to this film, and it goes without saying, I'm also a massive fan of A24. I think they're a very artistically honest and loyal company. I love the amount of creative freedom that they give the people that they work with, their writers and directors and actors and all those creative teams. I think it's beautiful. But recently, A24 announced that they were going to have to do some more big budget, more mainstream appealing movies, simply because they can't, you know, continue their legacy only making like extreme indie movies with a $1 million budget. And this film is a direct result of that. And given my tone of voice in that last segment, you guys probably think I have a negative opinion of that reality, but it's actually the exact opposite. Because Civil War, if nothing else, proves that you can have a big budget, big like special effects summer blockbuster movie with all these grand set pieces and thrilling action sequences and some fairly well-known actors, and still have it be a very smart, well-written, intriguing, and thought-provoking thriller. This film tells the story of a team of photojournalists who are attempting to travel from one location to another location in a somewhat dystopian version of the United States. Basically, when this movie starts, and don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything here, but when this movie starts, it is understood and it's established immediately that the United States has been in the middle of a civil war for some time now. You don't see how it started, you don't even really get an understanding of how it started or what any of the sides are particularly fighting for. All you know is that this is a broken nation, if it isn't broken enough already in real life, and this team of photojournalists is simply trying to document the truth with the stretch goal of reaching Washington, D.C. to get an interview with the president. And that may not sound like the most interesting or intriguing premise for a action thriller in the book, but oh man, in execution, it's a very different story. First things first, all of the performances in this film are obviously magnificent. Kirsten Dunst in particular is a standout here as kind of our lead, but I think my favorite performance in the movie actually came from Kaylee Spaney, who played this character named Jessie, who is a much younger photographer, and Kirsten Dunst's character is her hero, and that's how she kind of gets pulled into this very horrific road trip that Kirsten Dunst and her team, which is really only like 1 or 2 partners, are going on. She's a young character. I think in the movie they said she's like 23. So a Gen Z character, and as a Gen Zer, I loved the way that her character was depicted in this film. I am so sick and tired of all those Netflix original straight-to-home video movies that depict Gen Zers as the most brain-dead, brainwashed, unable to communicate imbeciles you will ever meet in your life. It's just not the case. And if you want to say, well, there are a lot of Gen Zers who are kind of like that, you can say that about any generation. You're not going to get anywhere. Point is, I found her performance as this character extremely realistic and believable. There are very, very few scenes, an extreme lack of scenes in this film that feel scripted, or that feel polished or Hollywoodized. And that makes the scenes in this movie that are meant to hold you in a severe amount of tension, which is almost the entire film, that much more effective. Because yes, this film has some of the most suspenseful, anxiety-inducing scenes that I've seen in a film in recent memory, and that's something Alex Garland is actually very good at. That bear scene in Annihilation, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's on the level of that scene, but for pretty much the entire film. You remember that sequence in 1917 where it felt like at any moment, no matter where the 2 soldiers were, no matter what they did, any moment, one of them could get sniped and just fucking die? Yeah. This movie is that level of tension stretched to 2 hours. Obviously, the scene most people point to when they're making the case for this movie being super tense and suspenseful is the scene with Jesse Plemons, which, by the way, Jesse Plemons was in the trailer for this movie. If you have not yet seen the movie and you're excited to watch it because you love Jesse Plemons, put those expectations to the wayside when you're going into it. He's only in here for 1 scene, but it is one of the best scenes of the movie, and in my opinion, is sort of the film's thesis, because a lot of people have thrown shade at this movie because it doesn't take a political side. You never really know why this conflict started or what each particular side are fighting for, and it's not always clear what certain characters' goals are and why they are doing what they're doing, except for our lead cast of characters. And because of that, this movie alienated a lot of people, and a lot of people were pissed that it didn't have the balls, for lack of a better term, to take a political side. Here's my opinion on this. Art, obviously, is subjective, and Alex Garland is very clearly an artist who is not just doing this for the money and the enjoyment of getting to sustain yourself making these super entertaining movies. Alex Garland is very clearly an artist who has something to say and has had something to say in every single film he has made before this. Even before he was solo directing movies, he was writing movies like 28 Days Later that had a lot of commentary in them. Civil War is, for a lot of people, Alex Garland's most ambiguous film in regards to what it is trying to say. Unfortunately, because I like connecting with people over things, and that's why I'm saying unfortunately, I simply do not see those criticisms. I don't understand them. I mean, I guess I can understand if you don't know anything and you're just going into this movie and you just watch it, and it's called Civil War, and it's about a civil war in America that's a little bit in the future, right as our country in real life seems to be on the brink of a civil war. You expect the movie to make a more clear statement when it comes to politics. And that, I think, is a very detrimental mindset to have when you go in to watch this film. Because, you can probably already tell, I pretty much loved everything about this movie. I have some criticisms, and we'll talk about them in a moment, but I really want to hit home this point first. If this film had taken a strictly left-wing stance, or a strictly right-wing stance, it was going to alienate a lot of people no matter what. No matter what stance this movie took, it was going to alienate millions of people, okay? If this movie took a strictly right-wing stance, a lot of left-leaning people wouldn't want to support it, and vice versa. If this movie took a very left-wing stance, a lot of right-wing people also wouldn't want to support it. Now, if you follow me on social media, you probably know about my politics, but you would also know that I am a very consistent and avid and passionate supporter of freedom of speech and hearing out both sides and getting a very objective, logistical scientific understanding of a situation, whether that be political science or neuroscience or any kind of science you could think of. I think one of the most important things when we're having debates about politics is to hear every single side out and deconstruct each side's arguments to make up your own mind. Really, no matter what this movie did politically, it was going to alienate a lot of people. As I said, if it was a left-wing movie, it would alienate right-wingers. If it was a right-wing movie, it would alienate left-wingers. And it's very clearly a more so centrist film. And so it kind of just alienated everybody. There's no win-win in this situation. There really isn't. And that's why I was talking about how Alex Garland is an artist with something to say. And my opinion on this is that we should just let artists create what they want to create. And for the people who find meaning in it, that's amazing for them. People like me who actually really enjoyed this movie, who did find a deeper meaning to it behind the facade of all this grand, big spectacle action with amazing special effects, by the way. For those people like me, other people who connected with this movie who actually did have a very clear interpretation of what they think the movie is saying, as I do, that's what these movies need to be made for. I don't think we need to discourage movies that take the approach that this movie does, because this movie has proven that a lot of people wanted a movie like this. Not an overwhelming number of people. I don't know how the movie did financially, but there are a very vocal minority of people out there. I'm going to assume it's a minority, because most of the stuff I've seen on this movie online has been overwhelmingly negative. But there is a very vocal minority out there who did have an interpretation of this movie that I tend to agree with. Because our characters in the film are almost the exact political approach that I just described. Not taking a side, not letting their personal life experiences or biases or beliefs or convictions or values get in the way of what they're doing. They are photographing every single thing they possibly can, regardless of what it is, and releasing those photos to show people the truth of what is happening. And that is invaluable, not only in the world of this movie, but also in the world that we are currently living in with all these atrocities that are currently happening day in and day out. Now, I know it may not seem like I'm really reviewing the movie, but this is what this movie left me with. I took no notes for this review. I just wanted to spitball my thoughts, because that's how I typically enjoy talking about movies with people in real life, and that's what I want my channel to feel like. I just want it to feel like, hey, we're just sitting here, we're just gonna talk about movies. That's really fun for me, and so that's what I'm doing. But I did mention I had some negative criticisms with the movie, but they're also strangely also positives. It's a very conflicting movie in that regard, because I love our lead cast of characters, Kirsten Dunst and why am I forgetting her name? Kaylee Spaney, sorry. In particular, their characters, their bond, the way their relationship grows is very fulfilling for me. I understand it wasn't like that for a lot of people. A lot of people find the characters in this movie very flat, but I also mentioned that I think that this script is very well written, and in that script being well written, in my opinion, it is also an opinion that I hold that because of that well-written script, these are well-written characters, and therefore I actually did find myself caring about them, even though we don't know a significant amount of details about how they got where they are and their past and even their values, because that's one of the biggest things that can get you to care about a character in this movie, in any movie really, is establishing a clear set of values that they have that we can empathize or sympathize with and root for them on. But instead, this movie gets you to care about them because it really depicts the importance of depicting the objective truth of a situation when you have so many sides that are going at it very uglily. That's not a word. But you know what I mean, just at each other's throats night and day. It never ever stops, and it never makes any real progress for either side of the equation. And since, as I said, I'm somebody who really values getting all perspectives on a situation and looking at things objectively, given the fact that that's what these characters' moral code is, so to speak, it got me to empathize and sympathize with them because I supported them and their goals and what they were doing, and I wanted them to succeed. And so because of that, I was able to root for them. And on top of that, you add how amazing their performances were and how well they brought these characters to life, how believable they made them. You got a win-win situation for me. I loved the characters in this movie, and I did care about them, and it hurt when certain characters departed from the film. It's so weird with that whole last point. I was saying that I was going to get into my negatives, but I just spun it around and turned it into a positive. This is why I like sitting down and talking about it. This sort of allows me to realize what my own opinion is. I will say though, and again, no spoilers here, but if you've seen the movie, you're gonna know what I'm talking about. There is a choice that is made with a character towards the very end of this film that I am extremely conflicted on, and unfortunately, I think I am more so leaning to the negative side of it. It's not that it's something that wouldn't logically happen in the world that this movie has built, but when you look at the type of person that this character was made out to be and how you watch them grow throughout the film, when this character makes this choice, it just feels like it sabotages the character a little bit. It felt not entirely out of character, but a little bit out of character, and I understand for a lot of people, they're going to see it and they're going to be like, well, that's just the world that this movie exists in, and that's what would happen. And I understand that. But this is also a film that is presenting you a fictional narrative that is based in a lot of truth, but with entirely fictional characters. And so you also have to take into account not just all the things that you can put in this movie that are going to resonate with us because of everything going on in our current political climate and socioeconomic climate and really just the world climate in general. All I'm saying is that you can't only rely on that. You cannot forget that this is still a film, regardless of whatever it's inspired by. It is still a fictional narrative that is asking you to give yourself over to it for 2 hours and experience its story. And so when you make decisions like that with certain characters, it just feels like it's in there to be really, I don't know, powerful, really depressing, and make you go, no, so that the movie resonates with you more. But unfortunately, in my opinion, it just didn't feel like the best decision for that character, and it made the ending kind of fall flat for me. Even though the ending as a whole I do mostly like, this moment is keeping me from absolutely loving it. And yeah, the movie can feel a bit distant sometimes because you don't get an insane amount of characterization for these people aside from what is currently happening in the moment. And so yeah, at times you do feel a little detached from it. Maybe you'll get a little bored. I want to let you know that that is what the movie is like, so if you think that'll be an issue for you, then just know that going in. But for me, as I've already explained to absurd degrees in this video, it didn't bother me because the approach they took instead of backstory, instead of backstory having it be the current times and just watching these characters' actions and obviously these amazing performances, it didn't bother me. I was able to stay consistently intrigued the whole time. It also helps that this movie is visually stunning. It is a very, very good looking movie, and it was a joy to look at, honestly. Alex Garland's movies never look bad. For the most part, it sticks with those characters. You do get your big action spectacle scenes, but you're always with your characters. The characters are always in the foreground. That makes it feel more real, more raw, and more intense, and it made me personally feel the tension of the moments even more. And I'm somebody who struggles with very, very severe anxiety, and for the vast majority of this movie, I think I was on the verge of a panic attack, and I'm weird because I kind of enjoyed that. Guys, if nothing else, if you don't care so much about having the most deep characters in the world, and you don't care so much about the reasons why people are fighting, and you just want to go in and see a very well-crafted, well-written, well-shot action thriller that holds you in suspense, I do think this is gonna do it for you. Detached from any political influence in the real world, this is just, objectively in my opinion, a very well-made movie. Visually, it's amazing. The special effects all look very, very convincing. It's very well paced. The actors are doing a great job with their characters and bringing them to life. And there's definitely some standout scenes and imagery in this film that it does not shy away from when it comes to showing you the horror of the situation depicted in the film. And if that's really all you want going in, I think you're going to be very happy with this movie. I know I certainly was, and I wasn't even going in just for that. As I've already said, you're tired of hearing me say it, I found a much deeper meaning in this story. I think the choice to focus on a team of photojournalists rather than either side of the war going on, I think that was a very smart idea, and I think it speaks to certain commentary about when are we not helping when we should? When is it okay to stay silent versus when is it okay to speak up? It's always a constant dilemma, especially in our current environment. And also, pointing out how complicity in certain things might as well be supporting whatever side a lot of people deem the wrong side. Can you tell I'm trying to do what the movie also does, trying to be very vague when it comes to political leanings? Honestly, guys, at the end of the day, I appreciated that approach from this movie, and I actually think it elevated the narrative more than it would be if it had taken a very strict political stance, because this movie doesn't... In my opinion, this movie's not concerned with politics. I'm getting kind of riled up because sometimes I see opinions and I'm just like, but did you watch the movie, though? And I understand everyone has their own opinion, they have their own interpretations, that's the beauty of film, and that's the beauty of talking about film. But for me, what the movie is saying just seems to be so blatantly clear and obvious that it just frustrates me when people try to make it a solely political thing. It's really not. This movie is a commentary on human nature and human goodness and the darkness that we are inevitably going to face and arguably already are facing if we continue to let ourselves go in the way that we are. And in that regard, this movie really resonated with me. I have a couple criticisms. Like I said, that betrayal of that one character just didn't quite feel right for me. There were other aspects of the ending that were very, very fulfilling. The entire last act of this movie is essentially one massive action sequence, and it was extremely suspenseful, some of the best action filmmaking I've seen in a very long time. And there were many aspects of the ending, as I said, that were very fulfilling, but it was just that one thing that I was like, oh, you like, literally, if this one thing hadn't happened, I would be saying this movie is almost perfect, but this one thing happened, and a couple of my other minor complaints that I mentioned, that is really holding it back from being just a genuinely incredible 10 out of 10 movie. But I still loved the movie, and I want to watch it again, and I want to share it with people. If nothing else, it's just a very suspenseful experience, and you're gonna get a pretty big thrill when you watch it. So it definitely has that going for it. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. Be sure to let me know down in the comment section what you thought of Civil War. I would love to hear your thoughts. Just make sure you keep it respectful and civil down there. I guess I'll say look forward to the Twister video. I mean, you can. It'll definitely come before Twisters comes out, I promise you. I just am going to have to do some even more major re-editing. Literally right before I sat down to film this video, I was uploading that Twister video, and it was almost done, and then bam, Warner Brothers just had to slap another copyright claim on it, and I don't want my channel to get taken down, even if I am obeying all the rules and regulations. So, for you guys, and for me, I am, and for all the time and effort and passion that I put into this video, I am going to do what I need to do to make sure that it is viewable to everybody. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. I will see you in the next video, whatever it may be. And until then, keep writing, keep shooting, and keep editing.